We have at least 3 different people looking at your application, if not 4 or 5. And so we're going to have different evaluations with different components of the application that are there for our readers.
So now you're kind of at the head of the table, so to speak, and really want to understand kind of what this process is like, because I think when we talk about demystifying the process, it's really about like, what is this process? So can you give us a peek into like what the admissions committee is like in your program, even like who's involved in reading applications, how decisions are made? Is it a room? Is it virtual? Like I think we're just curious to know like what it's actually like.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that. And it's always like, do they sit behind closed doors and like have, this angry music on and want to deny everybody? Or is it this nice, peaceful environment where it's just, unicorns and fluffiness and all of that? It's always funny, but it's the unknown and people are going to assume and think about different things. But for admissions committee, it's a lot of fun, to be very honest with you. There's a multi-step process when it comes to reviewing the application for UNC. We have at least 3 different people looking at your application, if not 4 or 5. And so we're going to have different evaluations with different components of the application that are there for our readers. So like our reader 1, they're not looking at your test scores. They don't even know if you have a test waiver or what score it is on your application. It is just generally getting to know you as an applicant. Then we have an interviewer who's going to be a different person that's evaluating the application. And they're going to have different components that they have access to. It's more than just a resume. It's not a blind interview process, but they're going to be looking at your essays. They'll look at your transcripts. And then we have another reader who is going to look at everything and the kitchen sink, pretty much. The interactions that you're having with the school, your application itself. Do you have any recommenders? Any referrals? Then committee. We'll have a career and leadership person sitting in on our committee if there's any red flags that we see, or hey, here's this person's career goals. Knowing what we know from the career and leadership side, what is the likelihood, or what are some of the chances, or is this feasible? Could we help them? Because we want to set you up for success. We do not want to set you up to fail by any means. We may have the program director coming in to evaluate some of the applications during committee if there's any academic concerns, or if we see anything that, hey, we saw this. Oh, do we have resources? Do we have tutors available? We feel like this person will be successful, but you know what? They might struggle in this area. How can we prepare them? And again, do we have the resources? We will do them. Since COVID, we do things virtually. Sometimes we will have it in person if we're all in office, but a lot of the times we are handling things virtually just because of the setup for when we're all in office and when we're not. But it is a lot of fun. It's exhausting, but it is a lot of fun to read the applicants' profiles.
Okay, so you don't wear like a crown or anything like that. There's no special music. There's
I
no
think the
like
team
weird
would.
ambiance.
Yeah, we when we are in person, we get a lot of snacks. So we like food. So we're food motivated people. So I just remember like there used to be like 5, 6 bags of popcorn, and there'd be like Pop Tarts and like the most unhealthy snacks. But it helped us because we enjoyed it, and we generally love working together as a team to craft a class. But yeah, no wonky, music, no crown. Although crown might be, I might have to actually ask the team if we should get crowns the next time, that we're in committee and to wear those. But sometimes we will have some music playing, but it's more or less just to keep us motivated. We definitely take a lot of breaks during committee as well, because you can get decision fatigue. And so we want to make sure that we are all in the right mindset. And taking breaks is incredibly important for us during that process too.
I had some follow-up questions like how long, like, and this is just realistically for candidates, just so they understand, how long do you have to read an application, say a first read? Like, because you can't obviously you're going to spend more time for certain candidates, reread it and things like that. So it's not meant to say that, you're not spending time with candidates, but it's really meant to just ground candidates on like how much actual time in reality you get as the leader of the admissions team to review an application.
Yeah, it's not, we spend time, that's why it's important that each of the application components are strong, because we're not just gonna be like, oh, there's one typo denied. We're actually going to invest more into that. It could have been an oversight. So our first readers typically can spend between about 45 minutes to an hour on an application, depending. Some might spend a little bit less, but at least 30 minutes are spent on each application for one read. And then you have your interviewer that's going to spend time preparing for the interview. Then you have your second reader that could spend another 30 minutes on there. And then when it comes to admissions committee, I may not be reviewing every single component of the application, but I'm going through and reading all of the reader notes, reading their files, and even clicking on someone and reviewing someone. I'm like, Eric, this seems, unique that the reader one picked this up, reader two picked this up in the interview, and I'm going to go back now and read it. So we spend a lot of time and invest in a lot when reviewing applications.
That's really great to hear. I don't think that's the same for every school. So thank you for providing that. Like that really speaks to what you all are all about.
Yeah. I mean, every school is different. I've worked for another program that we didn't spend as much time into it, but I'm not saying that it was wrong. Some people are fast readers. Some people take their time. It all depends. But for UNC specifically, that's our process. And it's great to have multiple people looking at the application and not just being, hey, this one person makes the final decision and that's it.
That's awesome. So they put the Southern charm on the application process. I can't
little bit.
That's fabulous.
A little bit.
So help us understand like a little bit about the process. Just give us a high level overview. So all of these people are saying, let's say round one and it's decision day. Obviously there's some people that start early, most don't, most, apply 24 hours before the deadline.
Yeah.
Do you all batch them? Like, do you have a process that goes through screens and make sure all the stuff is in there? You get a lot of questions like, hey, my recommender hasn't sent it yet. Usually there's some buffer time. So just give us a little bit of like how the process works. All of these things happen. Then a week later, we go to committee and then first reads happen. And then, help us just get a high level overview of the process.
You want the secret sauce recipe.
Just a little bit of that Carolina barbecue sauce. We'd love to have some of that.
We'll give a little bit. We won't give out the full recipe, but we'll give out enough. So a lot of candidates apply deadline day. Similar to like when you have a car payment. When do you pay? By your due date and your rent due date. So that's what we see typically is when candidates apply is around the application deadline, 24 or day of. There's a method to our madness. We process every application and we go through and make sure that all the credentials are there because we don't want to put forward an incomplete application and have a reviewer be like, okay, well, their recommender letter is not here. Okay, well, we want to make sure that it's all complete and processed. We do invites typically a few days after the deadline. So if you apply before the deadline, say a month before, you're not going to get an invite until after the application deadline. And so we wait and review all together. And then we have a first read process and we have internal deadlines that we abide by so that we can, because it's a machine and it's a process. And we want to make sure that we want to get your decision on the application decision release day.
Thank you very much for that. I had to mute for that sneeze. Well, that's awesome. So it does give insight into the process. So take your time with your application, apply when you're ready, because at least in the case of UNC, they're really going to dig into it once the actual deadline happens.